Broads Media.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Broads. So it's going to be a wild week for our football team. There's no doubt about it. On Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, it'll be outrageous with a bunch of reports and a bunch of hypotheticals and then a bunch of conversations about who's going to be traded, who are they going to acquire, where are they spending free agent money. So it's going to be a lot, and I'm really looking forward to it, honestly. But I just want to let you know that this is going to be released Sunday night, and then as we gather a bunch of the noise, we'll make sure we have our shows accordingly throughout the week. But look, it started even prior to Monday. Honestly, we hear that Fletcher Cox is retiring, and it's a shame, man, that we are starting to lose these very important pieces to the franchise and to the entire city. And, you know, there was a time where Fletcher Cox was one of the best defensive tackles in the entire game. You had Aaron Donald, who destroyed human beings, and then there was Fletcher Cox. He was that much of a force. He was that demanding. He would go up against teams that were scared as hell, that would probably vomit in fear, knowing it's going to be a tough task. Holy shit, I got to deal with Fletcher Cox. And then you try and double team him. He mows both of you down before he does the army crawl celebration, and the link goes berserk. So I don't know if there is this, not recency bias, but yeah, no, exactly, recency bias, because the last few years there were fans that said it's time to give up on the Fletch experience and let's move on and let's stop bringing back the same older vets. And, you know, you can make the argument he was the best defensive player on your entire team last year. And yeah, a lot of that is because of disgusting play around him, but both can be true, where he still played well. I still think he has some left in the tank. I truly do. He could still be a force. He could still be within a rotation. He could still play reasonable ball. All right, he's not in his prime anymore, but he absolutely can help out a team. He doesn't hurt you. His presence isn't, oh man, Fletch is really running out of gas, but we have to play him because he loves this logo and because this city means the world to him and because of what he's done in his career. No, the second he's got his hands in the dirt, I mean, he's giving your squad an advantage still, and he's better than a lot of the guys that he lines up against. So, you know, it's going to hurt. It just sucks because this is what I know. I grew up, and it was Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, it was Jason Kelce. That was my entire life, essentially. You know, I was born in 95, so by the time you really start to understand and get a grasp on sports differently than, whoa, this is awesome, and you start breaking it down to a different level because your brain is maturing along the way, although you can make the argument that that may have not happened. But here we are, and I'm looking at a team without Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelce next year, and that is damaging to an entire locker room, especially coming off of last season where, let's be honest, who was the one publicly really singing the praise for Sirianni? Jason Kelce said all great things. Fletcher Cox said all great things. And, you know, they're pros, and that's why they have the respect that they have, and that's why we love them, and that's why they have helped with the culture for years now, is because they are people who will be willing to stand up and say, hey, I love that guy, even if it's not necessarily true. And I have no idea. Honestly, I don't know. I'm sure they feel a lot more positive on Nick Sirianni than I do, but they are willing to fall on the sword for others in the organization, and that describes the human beings that we are losing in the room. And, you know, I've talked about this before, that maybe it's a good thing just because it's a passing of the torch. And don't get me wrong, I don't want it to end. If I can have those two lace them up for 45 years and never dip off and we just get their prime forever, then I want it. But all good things do come to an end, and I wonder if you force Jalen Hurts to be uncomfortable not having those shoulders to lean on, and you still have BG and you'll still have Lane Johnson, it's not as if the whole thing is gone and poof, you're starting at ground zero. There still are a few pieces in place, and Vic Fangio has been around the game for a long time. I do believe that Kellen Moore walks into the NovaCare complex, and there is a lot of respect around because you look at some of the statistics on paper with Dallas and what he was able to provide. I'm sure they believe, I've seen this cat draw up some good stuff. I've seen this dude put together an offense that really helped a Amari Cooper or any of those nice names skill position-wise. Now you start to get excited if you're Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown because it should be significantly different from the garbage and the crap that we saw last season under Sirianni and Brian Johnson. So, there's other things there, but getting Jalen Hurts now to sort of get pushed into the fire. Dude, all right, there's no more leaning on Kelsey, and I'm not saying this in like a negative way as if Jalen Hurts can't lead. I'm just thinking about what needs to happen, and there's no doubt that Jalen Hurts has to take another step, and if you have to do it because other guys are deciding I no longer feel like playing, I no longer think this is best, I feel I should be with my family and it's my time. Well, what better way than, hey, it's yours. It's yours. Go take it. Go shut up all those rumors. Shut up every single columnist in the city, all the sports talk radio heads that you despise that apparently, you listen 24/7, which, hey, I appreciate, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I wouldn't be bothered and it wouldn't hurt my feelings if A.J. Brown decided to tune me out, decided it's not worth it, decided I don't really need to hear the 50,000 people that call in on a weekly basis to discuss our football team. Don't worry about it. Just worry about what Nick Sirianni's telling you, what your coach is telling you, what your teammates are doing. Just focus in-house, and I promise you it'll probably be better for you. All right, stay off the Twitter, stay off the tweeting. You're not getting hacked again. I don't want to deal with this. I almost knocked over half of my coffee, and I would have been pissed. I was in a good mood. I had a good couple of days hanging out with Brooklyn. We've been, chilling, relaxing, hanging out, a little father-daughter time. I mean, it's just incredible stuff. And I was feeling great. That would have put a huge damper to end my week, or is this really to start my week? See, I think of Monday as starting my week. Saturday and Sunday, you're hitting the refresh. So this doesn't even technically count as me starting the week, but that's not really something you care about, is it? No, because we're trying to figure out where the Philadelphia Eagles go from here, and I would like to see Jalen Hurts shut everybody up and really take this locker room by his grasp. And it might not be in his DNA, and it might be a collaborative effort with AJ and Slay and Lane and BG, and that does scare me. There's no denying it that I don't love the idea of A.J. Brown and Darius Slay having huge voices on this team. Jalen's a quiet guy. Jalen leads by example. Jalen leads just by going into, his film room every single day and his studying and his ability to always be thinking about football 24/7. That's the inspiration that the team has, because if you think about taking a shortcut, if you think about what can I do maybe to get this workout done quicker, you think of Jalen Hurts, and then that is what should motivate you to be the best version of yourself, right? And if that's the case and A.J. Brown and Darius Slay start to have bigger roles, that's not my favorite style of identity. I like the idea of Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Lane, and Jason. That hits different to me from an outsider looking in compared to Slay, who when they lose by 30, quote, tweets Pro Football Focus so he can tell the fans to chill out, and he only allowed 2 receptions on 9 targets, so it's not his fault they got blown out by 30. That's the guy that's going to be more vocal, and that annoys me big. I just don't think that that's good. I don't think that that's right based off of where we fell last season. And, I actually did a show over the weekend, and the premise of the show was, it was Friday night. I did Friday night, 10 p.m. to Saturday morning, 2 a.m. And the premise of it was along the lines of, I keep hearing reports about potential Saquon Barkley or any of these other names, and I'm having a hard time letting go of last season, and I know I have to. And I do believe deep down that the second someone actually does get signed and there's more fire to the smoke, then there's no doubt that I'd start talking about it, visualizing them in in our defense or them in our offense, if it's a third wide receiver, something along those lines. And I would be able to have that hit me and hit home. It just needs to happen. But I used a Tinder date as an example after you get your heart broken. If you're still stuck in the past, and if you're still stuck and heartbroken on the ex-girlfriend, well, then you can't turn the page until you get over that previous relationship. That Tinder date, you won't be able to sit against a beautiful woman and really get whatever you want out of the date done. If all your listen, it depends on what the end goal is here. But ultimately, I'm saying if you have the ex in your mind nonstop, emotionally, you're never going to get over that. So how do you turn the page to eventually that next relationship? Well, that's the debacle that I'm in with the breakdown of last year. And at some point, I just have to shut up and stop being a little bitch. And I'm aware of that because I don't like sitting in this filth. I know what it feels like to hear me scream for 30 minutes a day about a negative team, about a negative football team. Joel Embiid gets injured. It's been a lot of horrible things, and I've been stuck into the brutal feelings, and I don't want this. I want to feel positive. I want to think about the future here, and once we see Howie Roseman's first signing, then I think it will really help me in that department. And let's get to that side of it all as well, because Josh Sweat and Haason Reddick potentially traded. Howie Roseman's taking calls. Howie Roseman's making calls, question mark, which changes it big time, right? It was Rossini. I'm drawing a blank on her name. Deanna Rossini. She was the one to put out there, kind of indicates that the Eagles are the ones making the phone call. Whoa, all right, so Howie's on the prowl. Diana Rossini, this is the way it was worded, for whatever it's worth. The Eagles have been shopping both Josh Sweat and Haason Reddick for the last few weeks. Look for Philadelphia to aggressively pursue Bryce Huff in free agency. And this is where I'm a little not concerned. I'm just trying to figure this thing out. And it's so early and raw in the process. I'm trying to sort of guess where Howie Roseman goes here. And I think it's going to be a heavy reshape of the entire defense. If you're willing to move on from Josh Sweat and Haason Reddick, those are pretty important names. Those are pretty important players to your line, and especially in an area that they are obsessed with. They're not bad players by any means, so there's a lot happening behind the scenes. I almost feel that he wants to do a mix of young players, Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Sidney Brown, Reed Blankenship, and then find ways to get big splashier names. Nakobe Dean also for the young cats, and then you also find maybe, I don't know if it's going to be Patrick Queen, but I do believe that Vic Fangio's presence will be more demanding, and he'd say, yo, do you want me for a reason? Right? We were trying to get together here for quite some time, right? Well, the reason is you believe I have value, Howie, and I only have value if I have the personnel to match what I like to do. Therefore, if Van Ginkel hits the free agency market and is in range for what we want to do, even if it's actually a little bit more than you would like to spend on a linebacker, it's time to do it. We can't be silly. If you want this to work, you have to listen to me, and let's go do it. And I hope that that's the case. So maybe it's a Patrick Queen, a Van Ginkel, a C.J. Gardner-Johnson at safety. And these names I'm bringing up because it's a mix between a little bit of veteran presence and your young kids too, because, well, in Indianapolis, he made it very clear. I spoke to Howie Roseman, Howie Roseman said, listen, I wouldn't be surprised if that man just sits there and talks to himself nonstop, just putting his fingertips together, thinking of some evil master plan without eating. His wife knocks on the basement door. Yo, hon, you ever gonna come up? And he goes, I'm not finished yet. And his face turns red as he's just thinking of a Lombardi trophy. I don't know. He's probably a very good husband and a very good father. So as much as we take our knocks on Howie Roseman, now that I understand that side of things now, listen, a very sensitive subject. We can't be saying things like that. Anyway, his master plan, because of what he stated in Indianapolis, I wouldn't be surprised if he wants to really let some of these young kids play. But if you do that, you have to find some very important veteran presence too, or someone like Huff that you think could be a part of the future and young and mid-20s, and you could really apply a lot of money to him and almost not necessarily build around him the way you build around Fletcher Cox, but find those guys that will bring stability so you can re-hit this 10-year window. Jason Kelce, Brandon Graham, and Fletcher Cox, to be here for that long. BG's going to top off a 15-year career after his start. That's insanity. Jason Kelce, is he actually going to be a center, workout? How long's it going to go? Yes, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's going to be the greatest to ever do it. He's going to be the best damn center of all time, and you just get to grow with him. And every year, you know the stability. Every year, Kelce at camp. Every year, Fletch at camp. Every year, BG at camp. Find those guys with then the nice core and the nice pieces surrounding them. That's what I believe he's going to do. So there will be a lot of shockers, a few big names that happen in free agency. Just remember, though, it's not just about, hey, everybody also got a lot of money to work with in the cap. You got to remember that prices of said players also go up. So if someone prior to the salary cap going up would get $5 million a year, let's say, well, they will probably get $6.5 million this year because the cap went up. So while you have more money to play with, you have to compete against everybody else who does. And then you also need to realize that the market is now higher for a lot of these players as well. So we'll talk about the Josh Sweat stuff more, and of course the Saquon Barkley stuff as well. But first, let me tell you that we have more Broads Media content coming your way. Coffee with Broads is back starting March 28th. Before you know it, it'll be here. That's opening day for your fight-ins. Join the Broads Media membership here on YouTube for $4.99 a month, and you will have access to Coffee with Broads live streams every Monday and Thursday at 11 a.m. It'll be very interactive with the chat, hanging out, talking with you. And there's also a Broads Media Discord channel that is currently active, where we will communicate live when games are going on, talking about all the action in real time. Nothing is changing with the current model, so it's only if you want some more in your life. I'm looking forward to starting Coffee with Broads live streams again March 28th. And make sure if you're interested, you grab your membership today down below in the description. And by the way, Sports Talk with Broads is available for you on all podcasting platforms: Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, and more. So you can leave a 5-star rating and a review, and that will go a very long way. I can't thank you all enough for taking your time out to, listen to what we do here. And then, of course, everything that helps with the algorithm as well. So the Barkley thing, there's a lot of big names with running backs. I would be stunned, absolutely stunned, if they spend a lot of money for a back. It's just not what they do. Honestly, if you look at their 3 backs, for example, what DeAndre Swift made, what you paid Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott, the combination of those 3 deals is normally significantly less than one contract for those teams that are stupid enough to dig into their pocketbook and pay a lot, because it's just not the best way to allocate your money. With that said, I do feel, because everybody seems to go down that path, that running back is a very fluky market, and there might be a name who believes that they anticipate a bigger payday this offseason, won't get it, and then they linger around. I'll tie this right to the Phillies. I'm sure that people assume that Jim Montgomery, what am I talking about? The Boston Bruins head coach? Jordan Montgomery. I would love to see Jim Montgomery take the bump and see how he could throw. Jordan Montgomery's still kicking. He's still available. He's still waiting around. I'm sure his phone is buzzing, but there's a reason why. And the longer it lingers, it opens up the door for Dave Dombrowski to pounce. Well, look, you're not getting the market you think you'd get. Philadelphia always has one of the best offensive lines of the entire game, even without Jason Kelce. Let's run it behind Landon Dickerson and Jordan Mailata. Let's get this thing going. And then, if I have an explosive year, Jalen Hurts can also help out my numbers because he's a threat to run the football too. If I can bolster up a sexy year, but then I guess you just look at DeAndre Swift and see what he gets paid and go, well, hold on a second. That guy was on a mission. That guy had a pretty great year, and that got him nowhere. At some point, you just got to recognize this is the nature of the position. But I just wonder, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, is there a way that one of them fall right into your lap, or they slip in free agency, and then Howie gets someone for a smaller deal, and he feels it's worth the risk? The only issue with Saquon is health, of course, but man, would it be fucking electric to go up to go up 95 there, to go on the Jersey Turnpike, go into MetLife and just destroy him. Saquon pops off for 125 yards and 3 touchdowns. Dude's a machine. What he'd be able to do with Kellen Moore, it would be awesome. It would be so awesome. If they could find a way to make it work realistically, well, then, of course, I would love to. And we actually threw this debate around just because of the health and how long will he stay upright, how long can he do it for. Would you rather have a Derrick Henry instead of him? It was 2 totally different styles. See, I think with Barkley, you can incorporate his style in with something that Kellen Moore likes to do a little bit more than a Derrick Henry, who's more of your ground and pound. My only issue is, and I said this with Vic Fangio as well, because when I was on Birds 365 on Jacob Media with John McMullen and Jody Mack, one of them asked me about Snead, and I said, of course, I would love to have Snead, right? Well, he's very good in press, and I don't know if Vic Fangio... Whoa. If Vic Fangio can't work with Snead, then we have an issue here, right? And it's not that he can't at all. It's just more about the idea and the belief of Vic Fangio and what Snead does well. And just think about the press coverage, this and that. Let's say he goes, yeah, but I'm better at doing this. Well, if you're a DC and you can't mesh your love and your plan with someone who's as talented as Snead, then what are we doing here? And I feel that strongly about Kellen Moore, if it's Derrick Henry. If you can't figure out how to work with a back like that because you want to do something else, I'm more just speaking out loud in a general sense. But, you know, that we were talking about which running back would fit more, who might get the most money, where do you see Josh Jacobs go, and where do you think that the market is set for him, and, you know, things like that. That was something that was brought up. But there's no doubt the Saquon Barkley thing intrigues the living hell out of me. It just will never fit into what Howie does and how he uses his money. So if it fits within range because something slips and people aren't willing to go that far, then yeah, that's how I would do it. But I'm not going into the let's be stupid, let's be dumb equation and just pounce on a running back with a lot of cash for stupid. No. We got to rebuild the entire defense. So this is where I'm having an issue with the Josh Reddick thing, and maybe we can get Huff in here and we can build around him or with him. Double-digit sacks, New York Jets. What's the goal? Is the goal to compete to win a championship, or is the goal to be a 10-11 win team? You're good. You're not bad by any means, but you're a good team. There's a tier that's higher than you. Like, what if you were the Lions last year? Yeah, you had some regular season success. Maybe the Lions is a stretch of an example, but you knew they weren't as good as what Kansas City brought, even what the 49ers brought. The Niners were better than Detroit, and we all sort of knew it, right? Or, hey, let's say the Dallas Cowboys in the regular season. You look like that, but you still had some serious questions and whatnot. Or is it to win a championship? Look like the 2022 Eagles that went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Kansas City Chiefs, where it felt right all year long. There was just something about the swag and the attitude. They were a damn good football team. They knew it, and they put a lot of confidence in all of us, and we knew it, and we rode that confidence as far as humanly possible until Pat Mahomes with a backbreaker running on one leg, and he's running down the field. I'll never forget it. It absolutely stinks. But if your idea is to win a championship still, then Haason Reddick, to me, is better than Huff. I believe that his ceiling at this particular time, now, you don't have to tell me about the age. I know the difference in age. One guy is mid-20s. The other guy is sniffing 30. It's a big difference. But if you're trying to win over the next couple of years, well, then I believe Haason Reddick brings more than Huff. And if you're like, whoa, we're looking for the long term and we want to build around Fletch, BG, Jason Kelsey, like you just mentioned, and we don't think Haason Reddick has more than a couple years left. So if if we can go get a Huff now, that would make more sense. Fine, I don't think that that's bad. Objectively speaking, I do believe that there's some truth to that if that's how you truly feel. And if that's sort of your game plan, I don't think that it's a outrageous one. There's logic to it. But if you're trying to win a championship, don't you think that the Haason Reddick one is way more important for the time being right now? Sorry. My wife is texting me right now. All right, why don't we go to the phones? Looks like we had some callers chime in on Fletcher Cox since he won't be here. So let's do that. Let's go to the Anytime Hotline right now and take a few calls and hit on a couple other topics too, why don't we? Hey, how about Byard getting a 2-year deal with Chicago? Yo, fellas, that dude can't play. I mean, I'm just going to tell you right now, that dude can't play. Good luck. Oh, yeah, that's worth it. What a joke.
Thank you, Fletcher. Thank you so much. He was one of my favorites. I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss Kelsey, and this team is going to struggle bad. I don't think so much at defensive tackle because Jordan Davis needs to get it together, but Jalen Carter might even be better than Fletcher Cox. And Fletcher Cox, to me, is going to be one of those guys, not first ballot, but maybe in 10, 15 years, is going to be a Hall of Famer. I mean, 6 straight Pro Bowls, Super Bowl champion, yeah. An all-decade team, yeah. Him, Gerald McCoy, they're all going to go in. So, thank you, Fletcher. But, man, AJ, Jalen, you better step up, bro. Somebody on the defense better step up. Darius Slay, start acting like a leader that you are. Start acting like a captain, because if not, this between that and Vic Kelly, that's what I call him now because that's what Vic Fangio is Chip Kelly. We're going to be bad. See you, bros.
I don't see how Vic Fangio and Chip Kelly compare at all. Chip Kelly had an offensive scheme where they were nonstop on the field, they were moving very quickly on the field. It was go, 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 and then it would put the defense in this horrendous position where they're constantly on the field so much because their offense scores at will, or if they go 3 and out, then they're only on the field for a couple of seconds because they try and move so quickly. They get 3 plays off within a second, and then your defense is back out there. Vic Fangio allows teams to go on long, methodical drives. So I don't really see the combination, and I don't think Vic Fangio would treat his players the way Chip Kelly did in regards to Deshaun Jackson and that whole thing. So I don't know. I don't personally say, and I'm like the worst guy to go to with Hall of Fame. I said this, where did I say this at? I think maybe just in the group chat with the boys. The Hall of Fame talk, it doesn't do anything for me. I understand how great it is to be in the Hall of Fame. For baseball, for example, this guy should be, because this shortstop in 1878, his numbers compared to this shortstop in 2006, and that shortstop compared to the 2018 I didn't watch the guy in 1835 play right field. So because that guy got in and the batting, you could look at Kyle Schwarber's batting average right now at 196, and in 50 years you wouldn't realize the impact that he had on a squad with his 50 home runs as well. So it doesn't, like, I want all my Philadelphia athletes to get in, but is Fletcher Cox all of it? Well, let's look at the other defensive tackles. How does he compare? It just never interest me. Debating that never interest me. I can't tell you why, but I don't know where Fletch goes. I don't do Hall of Fame stuff. I don't. That's just not where I'm at. But I do agree on your overall point. Yo, AJ. Yo, Slay. It's time. It's time to do something from a veteran leadership level. I just don't like the condescending vibes from Slay and A.J. Brown. It rubs me the wrong way. And now it is a time of desperation to get this right. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know where the defense goes from here. I imagine it'll be a whole new facelift. All right, someone goes in for surgery. They get an entire face done. They look plastic. But then there's the ones that say, oh, hey, look at that. Hey, oh, hey. You know what I'm saying? Oh, that type of surgery. Hey, looking nice. Well, then, hopefully that's what we get here. A little facelift. Everything starts working with our Eagles defense, and it changes completely. We need something like that. And we will have that. I think it's big names gone, Reddick gone, Sweat gone, new faces. Now, Sweat, you can live without Josh Sweat. I'll be honest with you. Fine player, but I'm not tied to him. I don't care. Reddick is more of a loss if you lose. He's one of the best guys you have rushing the passer in the game, top 5. And there's a lot of teams that are sending guys out, this and that. There's going to be a lot of stuff happening here. You'll keep your Jordan Davis, your Jalen Carter, your Slay. I don't know if they give Bradbury the leash in the wiggle room because he has a good year, he has a bad year. He has a good year, he has a bad year. He rides this seesaw, and if you play that game, well, then that means he's going to fall into a good season this year. And because of where the money is, the contract, I wonder if Howie takes a shot at it. Truly. I don't believe you'll see him in the slot, even though we saw him at times last year try to do it. He is willing to try, but I don't think that suits him best. And Howie was asked about it. And speaking of slot, you have a hole there as well. Sure, you might bring back Avonte Maddox on a smaller deal, but the bigger issue still remains. He can't stay healthy. So if it's a $2 million hit instead of a $9 million hit, or if it's a $4 million hit instead of a $7 million hit, he can't play because he can't be available for you. And this is what concerns me. If you bring in competition at slot, someone wins out slot, Avonte Maddox takes less money, he returns, and then he's your second option, right? That means if your first option gets injured, you're relying on the second guy who always gets injured. Now, what if you say, well, if you're only needing him for 5 games down the stretch, well, he normally plays 5 to 10 games anyway, so maybe it's worth it. Well, okay. But then, if not, you're picking up randos off the street. You got to do the whole practice squad footlocker thing, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So the Avonte Maddox bringing him back on a cheaper deal thing, I don't know. Do you want your backup to be a Band-Aid, or do you want your starter to be a Band-Aid? I don't know if you can rely on it because you know now. Can't play that. All right, let's go to Zach in Baltimore.
Well, bros, you've got unfortunate news that the great Fletcher Cox is hanging it up after 12 amazing seasons. I mean, just first and foremost, thanks to Fletch. Great player, man. I thought he still had some left in the tank.
Sure did.
But it's his time to go. Can't complain. Well, I can, but, this offseason couldn't have got off to a worse start. It hurts, man, seeing Kelsey go. Now, Fletch, you only got like 2 guys left from, well, Jake Elliott also. So 3 guys left from the Super Bowl team. I mean, man, this hurts to see. As a kid growing up seeing Kelsey, I grew up with the Nick Foles, Mike Vick era. So really, Fletch, BG, Lane, and Kelsey are the only ones left. And now 2 of them are gone. And it just hurts, man. But for, thanks to Fletch for his time. He was a great player, man. He's one of the best Eagles of all time.
Sure is. And somehow I actually do believe underrated. I do. I don't know. See, he retires the same year Kelsey retires, so that automatically puts a little, blah on it just because we were all, 40-minute speech, 50-minute speech. Jason Kelsey, you're not going to get that out of Fletch. He put up his post, and it was still heartwarming for sure, but it just doesn't have that same juice to it because he's doing it a couple weeks after we had the Jason Kelsey stuff, if not a week. Was that a week ago? Was that 2 weeks ago? No, it must have been last week, right? So my brain's a big mush right now, and there's a lot that's going to be happening too here coming up. So this week is going to be a crazy one for sure. I'm with you though, and I think Jason Kelsey and Fletch and BG, I mean, you can't ask for much more than what they've done. And BG's probably thinking, I can't do this to the fans. I want my farewell as well. Don't get me wrong, but I can't do this to the fans. I can't have us all walk out at the same exact time because that would just be crushing for him. So I'll give it another run. You're right, though. He did still have some left in the tank. And I believe some fans were like, all right, I'm sick of the Fletcher Cox and keep bringing him back thing. But he was playing damn good football. Damn good football for what he was. And, yeah, I can't believe it. I can't believe that we're truly here without very, 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 very key pieces of this franchise. All right, everybody. We'll keep up to date with everything because it's going to be crazy. Appreciate you. Love you to death, and we'll be talking very soon.